Hey guys, what's going on, and welcome to our review of a game called When the Darkness Comes. So, absolute veterans of the channel here will know that I've already played this game, and that it was a while ago that we did it. It was like one of the first games I played on the entire channel. And so you have to go watch it yourself. It is a very emotional and a very touching game, so definitely go watch it yourself before you come here. Unless, of course, you want to see kind of what our thoughts on it is before you play it. But we're just going to get right into it. So, starting with the game company/creator. So the game company/creator is Sir Hyen. I'm probably saying that wrong, but anyway, they're the person that made the game. I looked them up on Steam, and apparently this is the only game they've ever made. So I don't know too much about them. All I know is that they did make a great game, so maybe they should try, make another game. I don't know if they stopped content creation altogether or whatever. So I don't know. But that's who they are. So moving on to what is done well. I think a lot of things are done well. Primarily the message, I think, is done well in the game. You have to, if you not know what I mean by the message, you have to go play the game yourself. I think even though my computer could barely handle it, I think the graphics of the game are super amazing. There's like that end section, not the end of the game, but like it's called end, and it's like there's like a black hole. It's like you're in a cathedral, and there's a black hole behind one of the glasses, and it looks super cool. And there's just a lot of moments where the game looked really pretty. Like, for example, that house scene before it gets nuked. That house scene looked really cool because, like, the nature and stuff. And just all the parts that were supposed to be kind of minimalistic and, like, kind of dark worked really well. So that was pretty good. I also like that just where you're actually walking towards the black hole. I think I like that part, too. So, but that's the graphics, which we'll get into later. But like I said, I think the overall message is really done well, and I think the gameplay was super fun. Besides, I think maybe just the parkour part, I don't think I was ever a point where I'm like, okay, this gameplay sucks. So I think that was really the only part that I was like iffy about. But moving on to what could be improved. I honestly, obviously the graphics could have been improved a little bit. My computer could barely handle this one, but I'm sure they could be amped up a little bit. As far as I'm aware, I don't think there's any bugs. There might have been a bug that I forgot about. Like I said, I haven't played the game in a long time. I just kind of had to rewatch my video on it, and I watched it at like 1.5 times speed because that's how I consume things when I'm in a rush. So I'm not sure if I found a bug, but if I did, it probably wasn't that bad. And then like I said, this is one of those games where I kind of wish it was longer as well. I understand why it wasn't, because you want to do it in one sitting. Yeah, I don't really think there's anything else I would really change. That one section where it's like Slender, and you have to go, you're not collecting pages, you're collecting, like clocks. I wish in that I think there was one section, it might have been the pool section, where there might have been a glitch or something, or like I remember getting frustrated on one of the sections with it, like I couldn't find it or something. I wish that was a bit easier because I think I spent the most time on that section. But other than that, I can't really think of too many things, so we're gonna move on to any problems or glitches. Like I said, I've kind of already answered this already, but I don't believe so, unless there's that one part, like I said, in the kind of Slenderman section where there might have been a glitch, but I'm not entirely sure. So as far as I'm aware, no. Moving on to controls. So controls is WSD, classic PC controls. You look around with your mouse, and I think you press E to interact with like buttons and stuff, but that's not really, you don't really use E too often. So very simple controls, very easy to learn, kind of like most games, so not too bad. Moving on to graphics. So, like I said before, the graphics I think are really well done. I think there's a lot of places where the game really shines. So, like I said, I'll highlight the parts. So, both black hole parts, from one where you're walking towards the black hole and like on the glass bridge, and the first one where it's like the end and like there's a black hole in the background. All those parts look really cool. I don't think I saw this screen, but there's apparently a screen in the cherry blossom section where like there's things going overhead and it looks really pretty. But like, I don't think I saw that part, but that looks really pretty. Like I said, the whole nature part looked really awesome as well. And like I said before, the minimalistic parts that look kind of dark and kind of bland almost, they're meant to be dark and bland because that's kind of what the story is kind of conveying. So everything I think in the game is pretty done well in terms of like the graphics. I don't think there was ever a time where I'm like, that looks like shh. I don't think so. So moving on to sound. Now, sound is the main kind of piece of this game because, sure, the graphics are pretty and sure all that stuff, but you don't get the story if you don't like have sound on. So essentially, what happened? I'll get to the story and characters. That's the next section. But essentially, there's a narrator that's talking to you, and he listens. Like he gives you choices essentially. Sometimes it's a narrow path. Sometimes he gives you choices or whatever, and then you get to a point where he eventually leaves. I think, or like he doesn't say anything anymore, and then you're introduced to a new character, which I'll go over in the story and characters bit. Yeah, so the sound is very important. The sound effects are really good in this game, I think, as well. It's labeled as a psychological horror game, but there are a couple of jump scares with the lightning and the thunder in that one like shop section. So if your volume is super high, you will get jump scared. I'm gonna tell you that right now. So it's technically psychological horror, but there are a couple of jump scares if you have your volume on super high like I did. But sound is super important for a psychological horror game because, like I said, psychological horror games don't rely on jump scares too often. And so it really drives the sound to be good. Because a game like Faz, for example, when you're hearing the ghosts coming at you with like either singing or laughing or whatever, that really kind of scares you more than, say, they weren't saying anything or doing anything. So psychological horror games really rely on good sound, and this game does it fabulously. So, moving on to story and characters. Story and characters. So the characters I'll go over first. You have the narrator guy. I don't think his name is ever dropped. And we have a female character, which I don't think her name is ever dropped. They just go by him and her, I think. And so the story with those two is I'm not entirely sure if what their relation is. So I'm not sure. He clearly lost her at one point, so I'm not sure if it's a girlfriend, mother, sister. It's a female figure in his life that he lost at some point and is kind of regretting his choices. I'm not sure exactly. I remember playing the game and like sort of understand the story, but I think there were still pieces that I just didn't get. But like there's clearly there a connection between them, and he either wants to forget her or I'm not sure what he was trying to do there. Like I said, I think that was the main piece that I just didn't understand. Yeah, so those are the only two characters. You're playing as just a player. I don't think you're playing as anyone actually important to the story. I think you're just playing as... You might be actually a placeholder for the narrator, because it did seem like that. So I'm not entirely sure. But that's basically the story. I'm not going to say too much, because I'd rather you play the story for yourself, so go play it. But that's kind of the outline of the story, and you make a very big choice at the end of the game, and I'm not going to spoil that either, but you make a very good choice. There's essentially a good ending and a bad ending, so you just have to go play that. So, very cohesive story, and I think also same with the sound, the story is what kind of drives it. So, you need to have story and good music not only, but also good sound effects, and that kind of what brings this game together. The graphics could have been garbage, and it still would have been meaningful, right? So, I think that's kind of what brings it home. So, moving on to replayability. This is definitely a game that is limited in the category because essentially once you beat the game, there's not really much reason to go back. I think there are a couple of choices you can make that are different. I only think the two things that are different are the two endings at the end. I don't think like choosing a different button at one of the choices thing mattered. At least I don't think so. He might say different lines, but I don't think the ending. I think you're still going to that path where you have to choose the good ending or the bad ending. So I'm not sure that entirely changes. You do, I think, get a different voice line if you like restart the game again. But after that, it's done. You've beaten the game. There's no reason to go back. So it is limited in that category, but I don't feel like it's a game you would need to play again, because this is one of those games where I don't really call it a game. I call it more of an experience. And I'll get to the reason why in a second when we get to the is it worth it category, because I qualify more as an experience personally. So just based on that, I think that I don't think you would need to play it twice. So, moving on to personal takes. So my personal take this game is that, like I said, also I think I might spoil something here, so spoiler warning. But my personal take this game is it was super fun to play, super sad almost as well when I first played it. And watching it back, I kind of sort of understood some of the pieces that I was missing the first time. I still don't get the whole like connection between the girl and the guy. I still don't understand that one yet. It might just be lost on me. I don't know. Maybe I just didn't get to a route that explained what was going on with them. It just made it sound like he lost her at some point, whoever she might be. That's kind of just the story that I got from it. I'm not sure if that's what it was. Although the game technically tells you at the end of the game that you define the ending's meaning. So maybe it's different for every person. Maybe it's intentionally kind of not there, so that the player themselves has to kind of build their own story. Which, if that's the case, then that's awesome, because I think that the way I took it is that he lost her, something happened, and he wants to forget her. I think that's kind of because they have a rivalry at one of the sections there where they're trying to, like, she's saying to trust her and he's saying not to trust her. So that part was the most confusing part, I think, for me. But overall, I think this is a very good game. I think you should definitely go play it yourself once we get to the is it worth it section. I'll say why in a second. But like, I think the overall beauty of the game as well is also really stunning. Is it the most graphically fidelity game? No, of course not. But I think the way this game conveys emotions is by scale. And so essentially one of the rooms you're in is you're in a small conjoined room, and there's two giant cameras that are above you constantly following your movement. I think that part's super kind of scary almost, because they're massive cameras. They're not just like 2 times bigger than the normal camera. They are massive. And then you have that section where you're on a glass bridge near a giant black hole. Like, that's pretty scary. And then like eventually the glass will break. And so I think the way this game/experience shows emotion is purely based on the sound and the graphics. I think that's kind of what the story drives for it. So I'll pass it to Zach and Isabel. However, they did not play this game, obviously, because they weren't in the videos. I told them to research it. They researched it a little bit, so keep that in mind when you're listening to their stuff. So I'll pass it to Zach.
Okay, so I've seen, I wouldn't say a good amount. It was an alright amount. But I have seen some of the things that you talked about, and I definitely agree with the fact that it looks really nice. I'm sure it isn't the most high fidelity, but it definitely looks really good, and I really love the way that it showed some of like the emotions in it that I saw when I was researching it, and the sound is also really good. I definitely agree with that.
All right, Isabel.
Yeah. So same with Zachary. I researched some of it, but not a lot. But these kind of games or experiences, they're very cool in their own unique way, because they talk about something that would be either maybe like sad, happy, just expressing one emotion, and this game did it super well and super fantastic, along with like sticking with like certain graphics, like nature being beauty and then like some parts being bland. It wasn't like done on accident. It was for a reason.
All right. So moving on to one of the second to last category, which is it worth it? So the one I've been hyping up for is because this game is actually free. This is not a paid for game. This is completely free. It's on Steam right now, actually. So you should definitely, if you haven't played it or have seen everyone play it, definitely go play it yourself, because it is awesome. It's a really cool experience. I think it takes about 2 hours or less than 2 hours. I think is kind of what they were shooting for. I think I did it in a minute 30. Yeah, I was speedrunning the game. I did it in an hour 30. I think is what my time was. But it's a walking simulator, so I think you take as long as you need, because you only progress the story when you get to a certain point, and you kind of have to choose, do you listen to the narrator, do you not listen to the narrator? Sometimes you don't listen to him, and he kind of gives you a line for that, and sometimes you listen to him, and it kind of leads you to bad situations. So you have to, the way you progress through the game is making those choices, but I kind of explored around a little bit. just to see what there was, because there are secrets in the game. There are very much secrets. And one thing I forgot to mention actually is in the what is done well section is the game will take a screenshot of your PC, essentially, like your PC screen, like your home screen. So anything that you have on your screen, it will show on like one of the sections in the game. And I think that's super, not only creepy, because they're showing that you're a patient almost, because I think they call you 6706 or whatever the number was. And it shows you an image of your screen, and I saw that. So that was not only super creepy, I love when games kind of break the fourth wall like that. It's super cool. So is it worth it? Simply yes. It is literally free. So I don't see a reason not to try out this game. Like I said, unless you're very susceptible to sadness and stuff, then maybe don't. But it's a very meaningful story, and so I think you should definitely go try it if you have the time. So moving on to final rating. Out of 10, of course. I can't give it perfect game status just because out of like I said, I don't think it's perfect. I don't think any game is perfect besides maybe Undertale. Like I said, that's the only reason we gave it a 10 out of 10. And so I think I will give it I'm gonna give it a 9. I was gonna give it an 8, and then I reconsidered it because of like I said, the horror aspect of the game. Because like I said, that like the black hole sections, both of them, not just the glass bridge one, but the both section of those, not only do they look stunning, but they kind of showed a semblance of fear, because black holes are obviously dark, they're scary, and the game is called When the Darkness Comes, so it's kind of like getting closer. And that's kind of what happens, because the first one that happens is the cathedral one, where you're kind of in a building, you see it far off in the distance, it's still there, but it's just far off in the distance. And then the second one that happens is you're literally walking towards it, and I think the chapter is called Face Your Fears, or whatever it's called. And so I think it evokes a semblance of fear, and also the fourth wall breaking stuff. Like I said, I don't think the screen was the only one that happened. I think there were a couple, I just can't remember them at the moment. And also that whole like nuke scene was awesome. Like not only did it look stunning, but also the sound design was amazing there. I think I just gotta give it a 9. I was gonna give it an 8, because I think that would have been a good metric for it. But just because I think it tells a really good story, and it also might help people, kind of like the test games, which we'll review at some point. But like it's kind of like those games where it kind of it's free, because it's trying to tell a meaningful story. It's not trying to make money. They're not trying to make money out of it. They're trying to tell a meaningful story that some people in real life experience themselves. And so that's why I'm going to give it a 9. That's just what I'm going to give it. So we'll go to Zach, I guess.
Yeah, I was definitely in that range of like 8, 9, 10. I would definitely go with 9. I wouldn't. It's like, it's not fully a perfect game, but it is still like really good. Well, experience. It's still, but yeah, it is like still really good. Its story, the sound, and the look of it is just all really good in my opinion.
All right, Isabel.
Yeah, I would agree with both of you guys, because this game is not a perfect game, but it definitely deserves a 9 because of how amazing it is.
Alright, well I think that's going to do it from us, guys. So, like I said, if you haven't played this game already, if you haven't seen someone play it, definitely do. Actually, I don't think I've seen people play this game. So, I mean, I haven't checked all of the internet, so I don't know about that. I'm sure someone has played it on YouTube or something. But, like, I didn't see any big name people play it, like Markiplier or anything. Like I said, I don't know if someone played it. But if you haven't seen anyone play it, then go play yourself. I definitely recommend it. I cannot convey the emotion and the graphical fidelity. You'll see probably some of the graphics. I'm not sure what snippet of the game I'll take. But like you'll see some of the graphics. And also, like I said, the scary element is kind of there. For example, the first section, you meet these people that have like corrupted faces, and they're red, and they have red eyes, and they track you. Like, that's super creepy. And I think they whisper to you as well. And so I definitely recommend you go play the game yourself, because it's just kind of super interesting, and they describe it as a walking simulator, so think of like Stanley, which is kind of also trying to just mainly tell a story. So, with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching this review. We hope it helped you in some way, whether just trying to see if the game is good or not, or just buy the game. Well, I say buy the game, it's free. But like experience it yourself, who knows, but hope it helped. So, thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.